Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are, to our Facebook friends, revolutionaries, and citizens of America and the planet. I'm speaking with you today to express solidarity and empathy with all those who are in shock and mourning and grieving in response to last night's election of President-elect Donald Trump, expressing solidarity in particular to all those who are traumatized and put at risk by this latest step in the devolution and assault on our democracy, which is under bipartisan assault. We're now dealing with the particular harsh consequences of Donald Trump's election. Clearly, what we saw last night was a reaction of voters to a toxic and corrupt political system and essentially a rejection of that system. In the light of day now, we here in the Stein campaign call for sustained and organized resistance to President-elect Donald Trump and his administration, and in particular to the rise of right-wing extremism in the United States. We recognize that there were many things contributing to this rise of right-wing extremism and ultimately to Donald Trump's election. We want to recognize that the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, undertook some cynical political calculations. In addition, the public has mistrusted and rejected Clinton's policies, both hers and Bill Clinton's policies, of endless wars, of disastrous trade deals, and support for Wall Street deregulation that crashed the economy and devastated the lives of millions. Altogether, this has resulted in horrific blowback that puts us all in danger. We also want to recognize the role of the DNC in lifting up Donald Trump and the so-called Pied Piper candidates to whom they gave promotion, publicity, and credibility, seeking to establish a weak opponent for Hillary Clinton that unfortunately she proved incapable of overcoming, even at that. We also recognize the role of the Democratic National Committee in sabotaging Bernie Sanders, who by all accounts would have trounced Donald Trump easily. So the bottom line is that we stand in solidarity with the communities that have suffered from harassment and voter suppression and now must deal with the trauma of a Donald Trump victory and all that that represents. You'll hear from Ajamu Baraka momentarily adding and further explaining our thoughts. We must also, it's clear, build the alternative that we have been building for decades now. And this ultimate triumph of corporate power and right-wing extremism has been in the cards for quite some time. So it's very important that we stay the course, that we continue our principled struggle for strong social movements that express and that agitate for the American people, and that we develop the political voice of this movement so we can bring that struggle to the ballot box. And we thank you and express deep appreciation for the 1 million people, more than 1 million people, who stood up and voted courageously for the Green Party ticket yesterday. Indeed, we are the electoral arm of this social movement for revolutionary, peaceful transformation. When we call for resistance, we are calling for those particular social movements that really are the focus right now of our resistance. Would have been the focus of our resistance had it been Hillary Clinton as well, but now have particular urgency under Donald Trump. So specifically, we call for resistance to the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It'll be interesting to see exactly where Donald Trump comes out on this, but he has not stood up to oppose the lame duck passage of the TPP, and we fully expect that he will, in one way or the other, support the growing storm here on behalf of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And you can go to many of the websites, in particular Flush the TPP, which is planning particular days of action coming up in the next week or so, if I'm not mistaken. And that's flushthetpp.org. Also Popular Resistance, which is helping to lift up that struggle. And we will be a part of it. I expect to be there myself. I hope to see you there. We will also be co-organizing days of action on January 20th and 21st called Occupy Inauguration. The 21st is also the anniversary of Citizens United. So we will be very active. We are hitting the ground running. This is the beginning. We will go on to organize a new institution for our debates so that we have truly a People's Debate Commission instead of this corporate duopoly debate commission that silences alternative voices that people were clamoring for in this election. We will also be building support for ranked choice voting, which is a voting reform that allows you to rank your choices when you go into single office races like the president or say like the governor or for mayor. In particular, we call for ranked choice voting in the presidential election where fear has had such an incredible impact. So along those lines, we celebrate the passage of ranked choice voting in the state of Maine. This is a new big step forward for ranked choice voting. And remember, when you rank your choices, this voting system assures you that if your first choice loses, and you could rank your underdog principled choice as number one without any fear, because if your number one choice loses, your vote is automatically reassigned to your second choice. The Greens, by the way, including our campaign, have been calling for immediate emergency passage of ranked choice voting in this election as well. 6 months ago, we were calling for the passage of ranked choice voting as an emergency measure at the state level in order to avoid exactly the kind of crisis that took place last night. So ranked choice voting is moving forward in Maine. We also celebrate the passage of several state referendums that call for a constitutional amendment to abolish corporate constitutional rights and to abolish the concept of money as speech, which is what underlies Citizens United and other Supreme Court rulings that have allowed money to basically take over our democracy and our election system. So congratulations to Washington State and to California, where these very important referendums were passed. So in the words of our campaign manager, David Cobb, don't mourn, organize. And of course, others have said that before him as well. I think that was Joe Hill. So we call for that. We refuse to consent to right-wing rule and Donald Trump's victory that represents that right-wing rule and really the distortion and abuse of our electoral process. We call for, or to put it another way, we do not consent to empire. We do not consent to austerity. We do not consent to a prison industrial and security state. We do not consent to a generation locked in debt. We do not consent to the destruction of our climate and our environment and to the basic premise of racial justice in our society. We call for peaceful, nonviolent revolution by the ordinary people who were shut out of this abusive election by the leadership of both corporate political parties. So we, the Stein Baraka campaign, and I think we speak for the Green Party as well, and for the many candidates of the Green Party, that we are prepared to be an instrument for popular power and for a new politics of integrity that must rise up as this political, corrupt house of cards is falling down around us. We thank you so much for being the engine of this revolution, and we are with you on this team, and we will continue to be in touch, to organize, and to carry on. We have moved from one electoral campaign now into a social and political campaign in which we continue to build this movement for the peaceful, just, green future we deserve, for an America and a world that works for all of us. Thank you so very much. Stay tuned. Ajama Baraka will be coming on momentarily.